Hi everyone, Quiveen here from the comfort of my kitchen. In today's video, we are going to take a closer look at a conjunction which is really an occultation, the occultation of Regulus by the moon. In a video a little earlier this month, I went through several of the close conjunctions, planetary conjunctions, and this lunar and stellar conjunction that are visible during March. There was also a video about the superior conjunction of Saturn with the Sun. But in that video, we were able to see that the moon is occulting Regulus, but Regulus has already emerged from behind the moon by the time these stars are actually coming visible here in Ireland. So this is an occultation, but one which from here in Ireland isn't going to be visible. So I want to track down exactly where this occultation will be visible from, and in order to do that, I'm going to have to make sure exactly when it starts and finishes from here in Ireland. Unfortunately, we're through to UTC +1 here because it is summertime and we do still use daylight savings time here in Ireland, but I'll only have to adjust by 1 hour to get the time in the time measurement system, UTC, that is most commonly used internationally for astronomy and many other things. So we're here at just 4 minutes past 7, and there's Regulus ducking behind the moon, fully occulted by 12 minutes past 7, and we'll need to move forward to see Regulus come out the other side. The atmosphere is turned off here, so we're not having any interference from the glow of sunset or disappearance of the glow of sunset as it finally goes away. So we can see Regulus there fully emerged by 8:15, just starting to emerge there at just after 8 o'clock, we'll say 9 minutes past 8. So that means Regulus is occulted there for almost an entire hour, which gives us plenty of time to work with. We want to find a location where the sky has already become completely dark by the time it's, well, not 7 o'clock, but 6 o'clock UTC, 7 o'clock using the summertime that we're using here in Ireland. So that means we're going to have to move in the direction of the dark side of the Earth, past the terminator, outside of the daytime side. So looking at just about 7 o'clock, the terminator would be just around here, just crossing onto Ireland. Various parts of Europe and Asia would already be in darkness at this time. So that's the direction that we need to go. We'll start by hopping a pretty small distance just over here to the Baltic region. This should put us in darkness already, though we may have to jump further. Oh, and we happen to be looking at a galaxy. That's always nice. So there we go. Regulus still not occulted by the moon. And the sky is just getting dark. We'll see if it's dark enough. Not quite. So we're getting closer. We're certainly getting closer because Regulus is visible there on the side of the moon. This does mean for this location, at least I would assume, let's double check. Yes. So the sky does get dark enough for Regulus to be seen by the time it is emerging out from behind the moon. And I think just before Regulus disappears, not quite, maybe if it weren't for the light of the moon obscuring it, we're going to have to move a little bit further. So we're going to have to leave the Baltic region, or at least travel further onto the mainland of that Baltic region, just about here. I'm trying not to jump too far, simply to make sure that we don't miss it. So we'll zoom back out here just to see a sunset sky. The sky is just barely getting dark enough as the sun is setting, but you may be able to tell there with the naked eye Regulus next to the moon as two separate objects. So here we are. We're at 55 degrees north. That shouldn't matter. How far north or south you are shouldn't really matter, as long as you're not so far north that the sun will not have set at this time at all. And here we are at 23 degrees east. So 23 degrees east seems to be a good place to start. And we can see Regulus getting occulted by the moon and emerging out the other side. But it looks like Regulus is just cutting over the top of the moon here. It doesn't seem to be occulted for very long. That difference is possibly because we have come further northward by just a few degrees compared to the location that we were viewing from here in Ireland. So let's move further south while trying to remain at the same distance east. So we're still at 23 degrees east, we're now only 44 degrees south. So here we are, just a little bit before Regulus's occultation, and the sky is dark. We can move, I think, significantly earlier here. Indeed, here we are at just 7:15 for local time. We're an hour and a half different from UTC. We're not as far different from the time here in Ireland corrected for daylight savings time, but of course that's just an extra human complication. And let's see how Regulus gets occulted here. So it's starting to get occulted just there. We'll say 8:15, maybe a little before 8:15. We'll say 8:15 for when the occultation begins. Regulus does seem to pass almost through what you'd call the moon's center before coming out the other side just here at about 9:30. So that is a longer occultation. It's closer to an hour and a quarter of an occultation rather than the just about an hour's worth of an occultation that we were getting from here in Ireland. And that does seem to be due to how much lower on the planet we are, that we are a little bit closer to the equator. So Regulus is more directly behind the moon. Parallax does make a difference even if you're only moving across the Earth's surface. So this looks to be just about the first place on Earth where this will be possible. So this is visible just as the sun is setting. That means that a little bit before this, the Regulus wouldn't be visible in the sky. If we move to the opposite extreme, then we should be able to see where this occultation is visible to be ending just as the sun rises, not in Japan by the looks of it. It looks like the moon has already set and we have moved too far. Indeed we have. There's the occultation about to be beginning before the moon drops under the horizon. So we've moved too far. That's an easy adjustment to make. We'll come back onto the mainland pretty close to the Korean peninsula here, and that has certainly made things a little bit better. The occultation still has not begun while the moon is above the horizon, but the moon still drops under the horizon before the occultation begins. We have to go a little bit further back into this region of the world here. Northern China, southern Russia, around the border of Mongolia. Of course, none of the borders are written on this, so it can be a little bit tough to tell exactly what country you're in, especially if you don't recognize many of the names, except for this one. I recognize that one, of course. So there's the moon. The occultation is just beginning, and the moon misses Regulus completely. So it looks like we have perhaps moved too far south, or perhaps the parallax just isn't working. This occultation might only be visible from a more narrow region of the Earth. Because of the Earth's tilt, the ecliptic doesn't line up perfectly with the Earth's equator. The motion of the moon through the sky doesn't line up perfectly with the ecliptic. It looks like, from further north it isn't visible. Maybe if we go further south, this is a little bit tougher than I thought it would be. I thought it would be a little bit easier to track this occultation. It looks like, well, what I'll do is remove the ground in the atmosphere just to see if it would be visible from this latitude and a different longitude. Take a closer look, and Regulus misses the moon. It's still passing what appears to be over the moon, even from this much more southerly latitude. We're a lot closer to the equator, not quite at the equator. We'll try going further south, just in case this occultation is visible on an angled line going across the equator in that way. That seems to be the case. Indeed it is. So there is the moon occulting Regulus. I've turned off the landscape and the atmosphere, which means that although we are now at the right latitude, we're still not at the right longitude. So we're going to have to move back towards the west just a little bit further. That's presuming I can get my map tool open to get us to move. So we're going to move back to off the southern coast of India. Nothing's getting marked here, but I do believe there are some islands in that region. There's the moon, and there is Regulus being occulted by it. We're only seeing the beginning of the occultation there, not the end. It's still too close to the horizon. So we're narrowing it down. We're definitely getting close to the location where it would be visible beginning and ending. Let's see if I can move a little bit further to the north while still catching this occultation now that we've moved a little bit further to the west. Just barely. But barely in its entirety. Barely from start to finish. So it looks like from around the Indian subcontinent down towards, not all the way to, but towards Indonesia and maritime Southeast Asia, up towards Northern Europe, but not as far as Ireland. That's where this occultation is going to be visible. Let's split the difference just to double check. We'll come up here to around the Caspian Sea, and let's see. There we go. From start to finish, the occultation. Not perfect, still definitely going across what seems to be the top of the moon, but seeing it from start to finish, reasonably close, yes, reasonably close to midnight. So that is the occultation of Regulus by the moon. Barely visible ending from here in Ireland, just about visible beginning from the far east. You can see it about to be beginning, at least. Really visible from what seems to be quite a bounded area, quite a small area, from sort of Eastern Europe, northeastern Europe, down towards the Indian subcontinent. So that is the occultation of Regulus by the moon. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do like it, and if you like this kind of content, then please subscribe to this YouTube channel. If you'd like to read this information, you can do so on my website, queevinscontent.ie. Thank you very much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you back here next time.